then slid back down the board and kicked out with a flourish. On the beach, a skinny kid in a wetsuit with long sun-bleached hair, who looked about 10 or 11, nodded as I hopped off my board. "Killer ride," the kid called out, eyes shining with admiration. I smiled and nodded, feeling flattered and a little silly. "For an old guy," he added, with a smirk. I laughed to myself as I trudged away. When I reached the sandy beach on the other side of the point, I dropped my board and appreciated the view. A crescent of fine white sand, framed by cliffs, studded with sage and eucalyptus trees. This was one of my favorite spots in Southern California. An island on the land, cut off from the highway by the cliffs, separated from the crowded surfing beach by the rocky point. A placid place, where the only sound was the crash of the surf. The vast stretch of beach was almost empty. There was only a young woman running along the damp sand with her dog, and Robin, wearing jeans and a sweater, reading on a canvas chair. From a distance she looked like a little girl, small and slender, knees against her chest, arms wrapped around her shins. She clutched her novel, absorbed. I recalled when my brother Marty, an attorney who worked for the same corporate law firm as Robin, introduced us. When I first spotted her, I thought she resembled those girls from the Shtetl pictures I'd seen of pre-war Europe. Pale, dark-haired, and exotically pretty, with wide, intelligent eyes that reflected a premonition of the anguish to come. I snuck up behind her and flicked my wet finger at her neck. "Hey!" she yelled, scrambling to her feet. I leaned over and kissed her. She said. "I love the taste of salt on a surfer's lips." As I peeled off my wetsuit, Robin threw me 2 towels. I wrapped one around my waist and stripped off my trunks. Shivering, I dried off and slipped on jeans and a sweatshirt. "I was getting damn cold," she said. "December's not exactly beach weather." "Sorry I was out there so long," I said, combing my hair with my nails. "It's so beautiful. I didn't mind." "How was it?" "Great, especially my last ride." I smiled. Some kid said I was pretty good for an old guy. She tilted her chin back and laughed. I'd missed so many things about her, but her laugh was one of the things I'd missed most. That uninhibited, trilling laugh that sounded like wind chimes in a breeze. "Did that bother you?" "Nah, I just never thought of myself as an old guy." "You're not," she said, squeezing my biceps theatrically. "But I guess for you that might be hard to take." "What do you mean, for you?" "You're years past the boy wonder stage." "Yeah?" I said, motioning for her to continue. "You were the first cop in your academy class to make detective. You were the youngest cop to make felony special. So all I'm saying is that it's probably hard to see yourself, like that kid saw you, as an old guy." "That's the last time this weekend we mention the LAPD," I said. "I want this to be a perfect weekend." "Okay, no more LAPD talk." "You didn't mind stopping here on the way to Santa Barbara, did you?" She shook her head. "By the time we get to our hotel, I'll be totally relaxed." A hint of worry flashed across her face. "You did make the reservation, didn't you?" "Of course." "And you made the dinner reservation for tonight?" "I took care of everything. This is going to be a great weekend, like the ones we used to have." I eased into the beach chair and pulled her onto my lap. She snuggled against my chest as I crossed my arms over her shoulders. We watched the waves break on shore, the spume feathering in the air. Being together again today is... I halted in mid-sentence. "I feel that way too," she said, softly. "You know, we've been apart now almost longer than we were together. Hardly 5 years together, 2 years apart." "It just seems like that," I said. "I'm glad you're a procrastinator." "Why?" "Because if you hadn't put off filing those final judgment forms and all those other documents you had me sign, we'd already be divorced now." We watched the water churn for a few minutes. I felt content for the first time in a long while. The squad room squabbles, the